there, they would jump on and I could have a conversation with you. But it doesn't, I started thinking, well, it doesn't preclude me from starting the show on time and doing all the intros and all that kind of stuff. So I'll just hang out here for a little bit. And if there's any questions today, I don't want to get into I don't want to get into the show topic because I promised people the show starts at 9 and we got some good stuff. We've got the success loop coming. We're gonna get through. We spent an hour on it yesterday. It's like several of you stayed on for the whole show, so thank you for that. But let's see if we have any comments out there. See a few of you kind of clicking on. Hi, Priscilla. How are you doing? I love it when you say, "Hey, Coach." Well, hey, Priscilla. Hope things. Where are you from, Priscilla? Can you type that in for us to see? Well, we kind of pre-show the show. We got about 5 minutes. And if there's any coaching advice or anything you'd like to talk about, any questions you have in the economy, politics, religion, like anything, we'll take it on. We don't have a problem. We're wired differently, right? We're misfits in this world. I am good, Priscilla. I'm concerned about your phone, though. I think you said you had some phone troubles when we were trying to work on that. But Zambia. I think that's where Muhammad Ali fought George Foreman in the 1970s. Zambia. Thrilla in Manila. Is Manila in Zambia? Priscilla rhymes with Manila. Maybe Manila. Zambia. I know it's Africa. That's really nice to have you, Priscilla. I see you on the show. I see your comments. I see a lot of you. I appreciate you do encourage me. Everybody encourages me. I think some of the things we'll talk about today is this idea that there's so many ways to think about life, so many ways to think about even God, and so many ways to think about success. And here I am out there proclaiming I have the success loop. I'm working on my mic. This mic is so hot that it cracks because it's so hot. I mean, hot meaning it picks up everything. I bought this higher end mic to try and step up. So I have a podcast. Like, this is my podcast in the morning, a live podcast on Facebook, and it's done good. It's served us very well. But we're going to be building a quarterly at first high-end podcast with cameras and guests that come into my personal studio in my home. And I'm really excited about building that out. Chris is helping me. Chad's helping me. We just got to get organized and get that going. We've got to get equipment. And we've got the layout. I actually showed an image of it. Let's see here. Brand. I don't know. I don't have a picture of it on my stack here. Okay, so Zambia. Yes, I only use my phone when it's charging. I know we're going to work on that. We got to figure out a way. You know what we're talking about, Priscilla. No, it's not Zambia. I think it's Philippine. I don't know what that means. Americans, we are ethnocentric. I don't know if anybody knows what that means, but ethnocentric means, I think most Americans, I'll put myself in that boat. We know about ourselves. We don't know enough about the world. We should know more about Zambia. We should know more about Philippine. We should know more about the world. We don't. We're just kind of like into ourselves, because we are the greatest and the biggest and the most powerful and all that. And I don't know. I prescribe to understanding the roles and responsibilities of power if you have it. And I cannot not acknowledge that America has a lot of power, and they should wield their power and their be responsible about it. But I do think there's a lot out there. I've got to see a lot, and there's so much more to see. Sheila Larrabee, how are you doing, Sheila? I've seen you on and off the shows. So cool. We're getting ready to start this thing up. I thought I would just kind of have some, I don't know, quiet time with you guys. If there's some questions, any comments, it's kind of cool. We got about 1 minute left, and I will actually start on time. Today's topic is we're going to really take to the next level the wire differently success loop, the success loop, and how we're talking about it. We went on yesterday quite a bit. Actually, it went for an hour and 15 minutes. So that was some serious teaching. Actually, I had 8 people go the distance with me on that. So I thought that was pretty cool. If you want to see the part 1, I guess, if you will, the success loop, where I really taught on creation, actualization, and salvation, which are the 3 stages of becoming wired differently. Yesterday's show was really in depth. And hi, Kathy. Hi, Albia. All the regulars are starting to roll in here. It's 9 o'clock. So let's do what we normally do here, and we'll get into it. Thanks for coming on early. We'll do this again, and we can talk more. Oh, people rolling on. We can talk more intimately. We can talk about things that are personal in your lives. I can do some coaching before the show. I like that, and I can be more involved. I'd like to do that every morning with you, Monday through Thursday. But right now, let's let this show begin. The success loop, and we're gonna have what are we gonna talk about? We're gonna talk about Hebrews 6:10 a little bit, and where does God fit in our life? Come on now, somebody. Good morning, everybody. I am not somber. I am my energetic self. I've got so much I want to share with you this morning. I love my job. I want you guys to repeat after me. I love my job. I mean, we need to be putting ourselves in a position where we love our job. And now listen, I don't think that your job has to be literally your job. So what you get paid for isn't really your job. I know it's your job. I know it provides us the riches, which we want to turn into wealth, right? I got all that teachings for you in the past, but your job is so one time I was teaching on something, and I realized that there is the reason and then the real reason, right? There's the reason and then the real reason. So anytime someone gives you a reason, it's generally not the real reason. So when I say I love my job, I love this job. I love what I call my job of sharing the gospel, sharing truths, sharing my insecurities, which we're going to do some of that today, sharing some of my shortcomings, sharing my failures, and I think predominantly sharing my successes even in my failures. So when I say I love my job, I don't love all the jobs I have, but I love this particular job. And so I know a lot of you have jobs out there where you go to work to get paid so you can come home and have another job, another reason, another purpose, another passion, right? Just like I said, there is the reason and then there's the real reason. So the reason is all these companies I built to make money so I can do other things with my family and friends and wired differently. But then the real reason is to really push forward the truth, the gospel, to push forward hope, to inspire you. My name is Todd Saylor. I'm the author of the books, The Brand and the Attitudinal Disorder, Wired Differently. And you can see the shirt in the background, Wired Differently. And so what I need to explain to some of you new listeners is that Wired Differently is a mindset, a mission, a movement, and a ministry. Or a ministry, a mindset, a mission, and a movement, right? You can put them in any order you want, but that's what it is. And for the last 5 years, I've been building this brand. I've been building this idea that we are misfits in this world. We are literally earthling, walking around this world with earthlings. And those of us that are wired differently and all three stages are literally misfits. We fit, but we don't really fit. So we have a job here on earth that we do to make money, but then we have another job that is to be good, to be thoughtful, to be God-minded, to be kingdom builders, inspired of Christ, and doing these things to share and help other people have joy, right? And so, that is my job. I mean, I just said it. I just created it, man. We have to write that down. Maybe Chris is listening. And to do this with lots of comments. Good to see everybody here. So anyways, I just thought I'd take the first half of this show, and I just kind of wanted to talk about, my day today. So here's my day today. I'm feeling pretty good. Heather, I know you're probably not on. I don't see you, but maybe you're listening. I just want to tell you, Abby's gone. So everything's okay, everybody. We're getting through. She had a baby, beautiful girl, and I'm so proud of Abby. And I'm sure she's listening. That's all she has to do is listen. If you don't know, Abby is my personal assistant, and she's the one that rocks Wired Differently and all these organizations. She takes care of all the admin side of everything I do. And she is on maternity leave for 6 weeks. And the good news is, though, is Heather, who is the CFO and a partner in all of my 14 organization, has stepped up and said, man, I want back into the old, so she's helping me out. And we had a pretty good first day yesterday. Today we got a full day. But so Heather, let me see, she sent me a text message this morning. Like, she doesn't have to do this, but she's super cool. She says, good morning. Here is how I see your calendar today. 9 o'clock WDEX, 10 o'clock. Got to talk to Mary. And 11 o'clock, we got Taylor Hawks. And 1 o'clock, we got interviews. And 2 o'clock, we've got budget. Thank you, Heather. I want to thank you for that good morning. And so we're moving right along here. It appears I don't have any coaching today. So got on the show a little early today and did some coaching about 5 or 6 minutes early. So thank you for jumping on. So anyways, that's my day. And so I was just kind of thinking about, I had an email come, Slav, you don't understand how the show works. So the first 10 or 15 minutes, I just kind of talk to you about what the buildup is and the teaching and what we're going to do, and just kind of have a casual conversation. I love your comments here. Like, keep them coming. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Jan. Hi, Margaret. Hi, Christopher Billups. Yesterday, Christopher, I don't know if you saw the show yesterday or the day before, but there were several people, Chris, that I'm going to make the announcement right now, that if you want my book, Your Will Be Done, Chris will send you either the audiobook or the ebook. If you put it in the comments today, and it was in there, Chris, I think 2 days ago, I think it was my Monday show I did it. And so maybe Heather, so we can remember to go back and get those, but I want to get those to people. So if you requested it the day before and you're on show today, request it again so we don't miss it. So good morning, David. Good morning, Latane. Wow, what's everybody's on here this morning? So here's the thing. So I got a good friend by the name of Chad Brewmeister, and he's like one of the greatest Christian dudes that I know. And he's come to my Tiki Hut events, and he's a very accomplished man. And I want to thank him publicly. He gave Wired Differently the source codes to an app he created called 77 Prayer. And we're retooling, Chris and I and Chad and Abby and Heather and the whole gang are retooling that app to be a Wired Differently study Bible of sorts, a very simple study Bible, a very simple connection piece so that all of us can be connected in this world together, not only just in prayer, but in mindset, mindset, mission, ministry, right? And all the things that we're doing and in movement. And so that's coming. I'm super excited about that. And I want you to know. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to Chad, because Chad and I, like this guy. The funny story about Chad is when I first met Chad, he came to a Tiki Hut event. I'm not even sure how he got there, but he came through a good friend of mine, Cody Harvey. And he got there, and I didn't think Chad liked me. I mean, you say, well, Todd, well, you're a grown adult. You're almost 60 years old. You worry about people liking you? Yeah, I said, no, I mean, don't we all kind of have some concerns that we're accepted in this culture of what? So anyways, Chad's there, and turns out he likes me. Like he liked my movement. He likes the movement. He loves God, right? And so he's been to every Tiki Hut. He's been a follower. And all of a sudden he rolls up on me. He says, hey, I'm a genius. He doesn't say it, but he is. And he says, I got this app laying around that I haven't developed, and I'd like to give it to your mindset, mission, movement, and ministry. And so the 77 prayer, we're going to be changing the name. It's going to be our Wired Differently culture connective tool, and it's going to be so great. So I want to thank you for Chad. But so Chad really inspired my first session of today's show, and he sent me a form to fill out. Not a form, but he had some questions for me. And I thought I would ask these questions out loud to you, and then I would answer some of these questions because they're really cool. And I want you these, so I'm going to give you these questions. So I'm asking you these questions that Chad asked me. So I want you to answer. So if you got a piece of paper and a pencil, see lots of you out there. So this is a little bit of homework for today. I want you to answer these questions. You can answer them on the comments here. I see Chad's on here. Hey, Chad, how you doing? And he could probably use them because he does a blog, and he's preparing. He's going to feature some of us in the blog, and so I answer. So here's the first question he asked me for his LinkedIn. His blog is called Spotlight, Ignite Community Spotlight newsletter on LinkedIn. Chad, put your coordinates in there if you're still out there. So here's the first question, and it got me really thinking this morning. So much that I changed my show around a little bit. He basically says, Todd, can you describe a recent challenge at work and how your faith guided you to overcome it? A recent challenge at work and how your faith guided you to come over. And I thought, wow, that's easy. And so I just started thinking about this entire recent challenge. Is at the end of the year, one of my companies is Pacer Systems. It's the nation's largest HCM, human capital management company, which is a cloud calculating, real-time production of a service bureau or a payroll company with HR. It's like a payroll company on, steroids. It's got like everything from hire to fire. And we process only people, organizations with 1,000 employees or more. And so we are the UKG ready top provider in the whole country of 1,000 or more people in space. In space of 1,000 or more employees. And so we do that. Well, at the end of the year, we always have to do W-2s, quarterlies, ACAs, year ends, all this returns, all this stuff. These people are phenomenal that work with us, and they do a great job. But I was just thinking about how you can describe a recent challenge. Well, the challenge is to get through these year ends, right? Right. The challenge is to get through these year ends. And our competitors take a lot of shortcuts because it's just not practical for a company to do it completely right, because most of our competitors are so much bigger than us. And every year we kind of look at, we're going on year 20 something now, and we look at it. How can we do it better? How can we do it faster? But my wife is like the heart. She's the nervous system of this business and the tax side. She comes in at the year end, and she is just a brilliant, spectacular. I can't say enough, especially when it comes to not only being a human, but when it comes to the tax side of things. And I'm like, babe, is there a way we can do this simpler? Is there a way we're getting bigger and bigger? And she's like, no. I understand, but I have to ask questions. She says, yeah, well, there's ways things we can do, but I want everything to balance to the penny, right? Which requires longer hours, requires longer diligence, requires more of the employees. And so the idea I thought is like, we finally got through year ends, and how did God help me with that? And it was 2 Timothy 4:7, where he says, I have went the distance, I finished the race, right? And so this whole idea of pay serve, or this whole idea of my mindset, our company's mindset, is to obviously separate ourselves from this world. And so I want you to think about this. So when it came down to trying to figure out how to do it more like the world, or quicker like the world, or more economical like the world, or more proficient like the world, or are you going to be sacrificing some of your accuracies? Are you going to be sacrificing some of your passion, your compassion? And, Tracy stands up every year and she says, no, we don't need to be those people. I know it's harder on us for 60 days, but it's right. But it's to the penny. And I think about 2 Timothy 4:7 right here. Let's just talk about it. Let's see. I can do a better job than this. Here we go. 2 Timothy 4:7. It's really 2 Timothy 4. You can actually even see the colon in there. It's what inspired me, Chad. So that was the answer to that question. 2 Timothy 4:7, we go to the distance, not just the efforts that we make, but the distances we're willing to go. God talks about that in 2 Timothy 4:7. Don't look at the world. Don't be like the world. Do it the right way. Sometimes it's more expensive, sometimes more costly, but that is what separates us from the world. So the second question, so hopefully you guys had a question there. Hopefully you all had an answer to how God, if you got anybody, I see it, or programs that could help you with that. I don't know what she's talking about. Margaret's picking on me there. Okay, so write down any of those things you want to help Chad with. Okay, so second question Chad sent me was, how has a principle of your faith positively influenced your business practices and leadership? And so I thought about a story about a hire I had about 7-8 years ago. And I'm not going to leave names out, but I needed a person to actually come in and help me run the company and be better than me at what we do. And I was leaning towards the sales side because that was always my gift. And the first person I had hired, we weren't yoked, and I tried it and it just didn't work. And this next guy I brought in, I was sure I would hire him. And I sat down and I interviewed him, and I just was trying to rule him out, but not rule him out, but I was trying to work it out. And I just remember sitting down with him, and we went to lunch. And I looked at him and I said, you mind if I pray before we eat? I want to be considerate of people's beliefs. And I'm not sure where he was, but I believed that he was not a believer in the sense of the gospel and accepting Christ into his heart. And at that point, he said, sure. And so we were at a place called Ruby Tuesdays, in a place in Angola, Indiana, actually. And it was just him and I in the middle of the daylight, in the middle of a table in the middle of Ruby. And this guy is so sweet. And I start to pray, and my hands are on the table, and I feel him reach over and grab my hand. And so, I'm not a handhold praying guy on the norm, right? But here's a guy that's coming into my business. I don't want to spook him off with my preachy, teachy, or the gospel and all this kind of stuff. But I do need people to be aware that I am wired different. I need people to be. This was actually even before. This was before wired different. But they need to know where I'm at in my faith. You can't bring somebody in a company and practice some prayer, some of God's teachings in the open in your business. It's in our missions. So I do that. And he's holding my hand at Ruby Tuesdays. And I'm like, I remember thinking, well, I'm going to cut this prayer short. It was crazy. And we get done. And I said, wow, hey, man. I said, that was a great prayer. I didn't know you were praying. He goes, no, I'm not a prayer guy. I said, okay, cool. I said, well, why are you holding my hand? He goes, well, isn't that what you people do? I love that story. I hope you love that story. And I looked at him and I said, yes, people do that. Some of us do that, and I haven't done it in a while, but I was really grateful that we did that in public here. And it really challenged me in that component of where I am in my walk and how I'm affecting people, and how important it is to stay true to who you are. And that is a principle of faith. Here's another question. Chad Brewmeister asked me, thank you again, Chad, for the 77 prayer app and the donation to Wired Differently, the source code. And we've got a lot of work to do on it. I know you're going to help us with this. So I just want everyone to give Chad Brewmeister a shout out. Everyone out there, come on, give a comment and thank Chad for our new app that we're developing. We're going to have lots of fun on it together. Share a moment when you witnessed the impact of your faith on a colleague or in your business. And so I'm just going to kind of close this piece of today with this very same person that I interviewed, and I ended up hiring him, of course, and I love him to this day. He's literally phenomenal, and he's set to be the president of the company, and in many ways he already is. He's just phenomenal. But I remember another time I had with him where, you know, I'm kind of always wondering where my mindset, mission, ministry, and movement is taking me through these years and Wired Differently, and everybody knows the Wired Differently story. And so it wasn't several years ago, even after that moment of holding hands, we hire this person, and so we're down the road a little bit, and I get a phone call about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I think it was, and it was a Friday or something, and he says, "Hey, Todd, what are you doing?" I said, "I don't know, I'm right here for you." He goes, I have this question, I want to know if you'll do something for me. I'm like, okay, it's got to be business, right? It's got to be business. We got to talk business because we're business partners and blah, 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 blah. We can never talk about faith and be relationships, which is, I'm just mocking that, because I have relationships with most all of my employees, the best of my ability, or we have layers of relationships for sure. And he says to me, he says, well, listen, the day's at the end here, and I was just with my daughter, and we're out back here, and she has this pet turtle she's been raising, but now it's time to release it into the wild. And I was just wondering, Todd, she has requested that we pray for this turtle to be safe. Right? We just pray for this turtle to be safe. I thought that was really cool. So of course I stopped everything I was doing to take the phone call. And then I just had this vision of this man and his young 5 or 6 year old daughter who had a pet turtle. And for some reason they thought of me. For some reason they thought of God. And these are people that are not promulgating God in their life on the reg, and they've told me that, and I understand it, and I love him dearly, no differently. And but I guess when Chad gives me questions like this, it did take my show a different way today. I'm going to get it back on track. You know, at this point, I'm not worried about time. I'm just worried about you. I'm concerned about you and your walk and your faith. And there's going to be a lot of detractors in the way you believe, the way you walk, and your faith. And I want you to learn to be focused on these types of questions. I want you to learn to focus on what is the fruit or the profit of what's going on in your life, because God doesn't forget. I had a whole story teed up for you, and I might as well tell it to you. So I went into my favorite sporting goods store is called Dunham's. I just want to get it out there, an amazing sporting goods store. But this was at Dick's because there wasn't a Dunham's here in Florida. And so 3 days ago, I went in there and I wanted to buy. I'm like getting really fit again. I feel great about myself and my weight, and I'm doing. And so I said, I got to get some clothes that represent how I feel. So I went in there and I bought about several $100s worth of clothes. Bring the clothes home and I try them all on, and half of them suck. The clothes don't stink, but I don't like how I look at them. And my wife says those shirts are too small. That's really what happened. She says, "Why do you have mediums?" I'm like, "Well, I thought I would." She goes, "No, you're not a medium. You're never going to medium. Your bone structure's not a medium. Your rib cage is not." She goes, "You got to take those back." So I'm like, all right. So I was a little dejected, but I put the shirts back in the bag. So I go all the way back to the sporting goods store and I say, "Hey, can I return this?" They go, "Sure, you can return it." And so I give them all the like 6 or 7 shirts back, several $100. I give them the shirts back. And they're like, "Well, here is your receipt and your credit. What do you want to do with it?" And they put it back on my credit card and they give me the receipt. And by the way, since you bought all these, you have like 20, you have like $50 of credit or something. So I'm like, okay, wow. And so I take the money from returning them plus an extra $50 and I go buy all the larges that fit me so my wife will be happy. I'll be happy. I don't know. I'm getting embarrassed because I'm just telling you the truth. I actually thought I looked good in medium. She sent my ass out the door. She'd go return this. This shirt is a large, just so you know. All right. So anyways, I get the money back from the first job, and then I return it. I get all the money back, and they give me $50 some credit. So I got all my money plus $50. So I go back out, I buy all the larges, I come back, I ring it up, and I actually get an extra shirt or something because I had 50 to spend. I'm like, wow, this is great. And so then I go to the gym that day, blah, blah, blah. I come back home and I try everything on. And like half of the larges that I tried on, I didn't like how I looked in them. I don't know where this show is going today, but I'm telling you, you got to be amused. So I'm like, oh man, I got the larges, but I don't like how it fits my shoulder. I don't like how it fits my waist. It's not clean. It's too clingy. Trust me, I have more shoes than my wife. And I said, babe, what do you think about these? She goes, I like these and these. Oh, they all look great. So she leaves. I'm like, I don't like these. So I take 3 shirts of the ones I rebought and I go all the way back. The third day, I go back in. Thank goodness I had this different people there because they would be like, what is wrong with this guy? So I was like, here, can I get my money back on these 2 or 3 shirts? And I hand them back. And they're like, no problem. And so they give me all my money back for the second time. And they say, here, by the way, is a 30% discount coupon for you to use. I said, really? So you're going to give me all my money back again, and you're going to give me a 30% discount on top of anything I buy today? And now don't call me cheap, but I'm not cheap, because if Heather's honest, she'll tell you I have no real sense of money when it comes to clothes. But I said, well, I want to be thrifty today. I'm thinking in my head, can I use that 30% off on the discount rack? Yeah, you can. I'm like, oh, wow, man. So I went back. I've worked 3. So I go all the way back. I go to the discount rack, and I find 3 of the most awesome things. And so I grab them off there, and they're like $100 a piece, marked down to $40 a piece or $50 a piece or something like that. Wow, I'm going to get 30%. So I take them all the way back, and I ring them up. She rings them all up, and she says, these $100 shirts are now 20. Oh, I thought it was 50. She goes, no, they're 20. So I got 3 shirts for like $60. Pullovers. Like, I should have wore one of them to make this even better story. And so I said, okay. I said, and then don't forget, I get 30% off. She goes, oh, yeah, that's right. Because I only had 3 hours to use the 30% off. Good business tactic. Think about this. They gave me the discount, but it was only good for 3 hours. So I had to use it basically while I was there, because I knew I wouldn't come back within 3 hours. So great strategy. But anyways, I get 3 more shirts, clothing, jackets, hoodies ends up being $26. It was so ridiculous. I felt guilty walking out of there. And so what in the world does that have to do with Wired Differently? What does that have to do with anything? Well, I'm going to tell you right after this.
Preview.
Todd is not only a remarkable, successful 30-year titan in business, with having multiple businesses that generate multiplied millions of dollars.
And if that plan happens to be to build $1 million company, which I can help you do.
But he's humble. He's a man of God. He's a family man.
The world's news organizations are built on everything but positivity.
He is an influential entrepreneur and business speaker for over 30 years.
I've got to forecast. I've got to pronounce. I've got to project. I've got to share with you my ideas, my vision, my goals for not only myself, but for you.
That's why he came up with his incredible concept of taking and creating a platform for people that are wired differently.
And you got to understand that your habits of your person and your habits of your business and your habits of your spirituality have to lead to the North Star of who you are. We need to figure out who we want to be in life.
You caught me typing You caught me adding a banner. I'm going to put that on here. So listen, the end of the story is basically this. Yeah, so I ended up with a pile of new clothes. But here's the thing. Every time I went back to this sporting goods store, which I wish was Dunham's, but was Dick's, but I love them both, especially now with this story. But every time I went back to Dunham's, or Dick's, or every time I went back to the sports store, the deal got better. Every time I went back into that building, the process got smoother. The process got more intriguing. The process became more interesting. And every time I went back, I literally saved more money. And so when I was putting this whole day together this morning, I got interrupted by Chad this morning, how awesome he was. And again, I want to thank Chad Brewmeister, one of the greatest wired differently dudes God has ever created. And he has donated the source code to an app called 77 Pray. And we're going to change that name, but you can actually go to 77 Pray right now. It's in our possession. He's given us the source code and things, but we're going to work on the name a little bit, and we're going to make it a study app, a study Bible that's going to help us, remind us when to pray at least once a day, remind us of what I'm talking about on this show every day. And it's going to have some things in there. It has the entire Bible in there for you. I know there's a lot of Bible apps out, but they're not the Wired Differently Bible app. They're not the Wired Differently Mindset, Mission, Movement, and Ministry app. That's not the app we're creating is to collect us, to collect you, and to help move this movement forward. But the thing is, every time I went back, the deal got better. And isn't that the way God works? Come on, how many of you got that already? Every time I go back to God, the deal gets better. Every time I go back to Christ and God and this whole beautiful story that was told through the Bible and true, it gets better. It gets deeper. It's the reps. It's the petition of the reps. It's this idea of staying on course, staying the course. It's this idea of going the distance, going back. Don't you love it how it all comes back together? Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Sports Center, Sports Shop. Thank you, God, right? Every time we go back, every time we go the distance, thank you, Tracy. Thank you for doing things right. Thank you for being committed to going the distance. Going 2 Timothy 4:7. I have fought a good fight. I have went the distance, right? God talks to us about going back again and again and again. And we go back to him again and again. Every time we go back to our disciplines, every time we go back to God, every time we go back to our craft, every time we go back to the root or the foundation of who we are, and we research and we replicate what's been making us successful, we're on our way to what's called the Wired Differently success loop, and going back and doing it again and understanding these things. And so I just want to bring Hebrews 6:10 into this, because in our reps towards God, in our reps for going back and always getting better, God remembers. I mean, I know I'm not God and you're not God, but he created our brain in the image of him. So if that's the case, then my mind and your mind remember things from the Wayback Machine, right? I remember getting my first bike for Christmas. It was a Hiawatha bike. I don't know if they make them anymore. Such a great feeling. I remember my dad coming home after a certain thing and picking me up. I remember him throwing me a little football as little as the age of 5, standing on the steps and catching it over and over and over and over again. I mean, every night, just let's play catch. And from the time we lived in that little house in Hudson, Michigan, he would just throw me this ball every night. I mean, I don't know he had the patience to have children. I literally did a lot of that with my kids, especially Kara in the end with her volleyball. But volleyball and softball, but man, my dad would just throw this little tiny football, and I would just catch it, and I ended up becoming an All-American wide receiver. Well, it's no coincidence that the reps in that at an early age allowed me to be a phenomenal receiver. There's a lot more to being a great receiver than catching the ball. There's the routes, and there's the offense, and there's the understanding, and then there's the reads and all that kind of stuff. But the pure piece of catching a football all started when I was a little boy. I remember. So can you remember something in your life that as a little boy or a little girl happened to you or was positive in your life that formed you? I remember making donuts with my dad, right? I remember my mom taking me to the zoo. I loved the giraffes. They smelled, though. I thought that was interesting. I remember smelling the giraffes. Right? I remember. So I guess what I want you to understand in the Bible, when we talk about Hebrews 6:10, if our minds are made in the image of God, our being here is made in the image of God. Even though some of us, like these workers and the person I told the story about this morning, don't choose to believe in God, but they're not sure if it's true or not true. They're leaving it open. God never sequestered. We talked about this yesterday, and he never said, like, if you don't believe in me, I'm not giving you this brain that I made in the image of my awesomeness, brilliant plan for all of you to be successful, to have this ability to get to a place that you want in your life. Just because you don't believe in Jesus, I'm not taking away that superpower of the creation phase that we talked about yesterday. That's yours and uniquely only yours, because I gave you free will to be that person, to create that person, and I'm not taking it from you. So you have all these skills and these gift sets. And so if your brain is that way and is created in the image of God, and you can remember Todd when your dad was throwing you the football, you can remember Todd and your mom took you to the zoo, you can remember the TV dinners that your mom would let you eat in front of the TV once in a while, 50 years ago, then why is it so hard for us to understand that the creator of the universe, the creator of this world, in Hebrews 6:10 says, God is not unjust so as to forget your work and the love which you have shown for his name in ministering to the saints as you do. God does not forget. The verse here says God is not unjust so as to forget, meaning that God is such a just God that he remembers the little things. He remembers the things that you do for other people. He remembers the time you go out of your way, Chad Brewmeister, to give us the app. He remembers you followers out there that we have so many comments. He remembers the little things that you are doing. God is not unjust to not remember the little things you're doing, and watch this, for his name in ministering to the saints. So he's specifically talking about in this verse about the little things, or the things, big things, little things predominantly, that you're doing to share his message in all shapes or sizes and forms. And I thought it was particularly telling today that I was given that verse and how this kind of all tied together. And so I just wanted to challenge all of you to understand that, there needs to be a little Chad in you, a little Chad Brewmeister. I got two Chads in my life, and I love them both. If you could have Chad Brewmeister and Chad Michael in your life, and you can. Endless Water, Differently, Mindset, Mission, Movement, and Ministry, right? They're here. They're on. I think some of them are on. Let's see if Chad Cook's on. Let's pick on Chad. I don't see him making any comments, but sometimes he's laying around trying to see and catch me on something. But so I appreciate everybody that's on this morning. So here's the thing. Before we get into the success loop, I I'm not worried about the 30-minute threshold. I'm worried about you. I'm concerned about you. I'm concerned about where you're at and what you're getting from these stories, what you're getting from these messages, and what's getting on in your life. And I want you to understand Hebrews 6:10 today says, God is not unjust so as to forget your work. God is not so unjust as to forget your work. God will not forget your work. And he will not forget the love which you have shown for his name in ministering to the saints as you do. Now, who are the saints? Well, the saints are other believers. The church was created for two things: train the saints, right? Train the saints and find the lost. Train the saints and find the lost. It's only two reasons the church exists. So if you're in a church, which I'm not saying everyone has to go to a church. God calls us to collect, and this is a place to collect. This Wire Differently Mindset, Mission, Movement, and Ministry is a place to collect. This could be a version of church to you. I'm going to give you the straight up from the New Testament and the Old Testament, and that's the Bible. That's where I learn from. That's where I teach from. And I know there's a lot of other places. I got concordance and I cross-reference. I do a lot of that, but the foundation of my teaching is the Bible. And I like the New International Version, I like the New Kings, and I like the King James. But the bottom line is this is where the teaching's coming from. And what I want you to understand is that God wants us to know that he's not forgetting all your good things you're doing. I mean, sometimes I had a dream last night that, I don't know, man, it was a stupid dream. It was a dream. I don't know. I was in a barn. Maybe Jan Gates can help me with this one. I was in a barn. Jan, you still on? I was in a barn, and there's lots of horses. I haven't been in horses for almost 15 years, I think. And I think I did something wrong. And the horses went crazy. Their horses are going everywhere. And a bunch of them got hurt. Like they went wild, and a bunch of them got hurt. It was always a fear of mine because I had horses I know where it's going now. I had a horse, and a horse get caught in a fence and like got wrapped up, and man, it's just an awful thing you ever see. But all these horses went crazy, and high tensile and all that. It's just a wicked. Farmers use it, but it's the biggest. It's the biggest, scariest, dangerous thing you could ever have for a horse, because if a horse loses a leg or hurts a leg, I mean, they're just done, right? And the high tensile is what we could afford and what we did. And I'm not saying it's any better. At first, all we had was high tensile everywhere. And then we went with horse fence, went all the way up, and the hot wire on the top, which was even safer. But when horses do what they're going to do, man. So anyways, in my dream, these horses went crazy, and a lot of them got hurt. And one of them was underneath a gate. He was laying on his side, and he wasn't moving because he knew that he was going to get himself in more trouble. I think he'd already dug himself. Anyway, so I remember walking out in this dream to let the horse. I took the gate off, and there was wires running through his leg, and I was pulling the wires out of this horse's leg. And then as I looked up, there was a burly man with a really important cowboy hat coming towards me. And he had a really serious face on. And as I was desperately trying to save this horse, he didn't care about the horse. He picked me up and grabbed me by the arm and just escorted me out of this barn. And I'm like, what are you doing? I got to save this horse. But I woke up, but I just don't understand the dream. I don't even know why I'm telling it to you now, other than our thought processes and what God has in us is deep. And this show is here to share my thought process of where God is in my life and where I feel he's calling me to share with you. And God is not unjust. And I do not know why the mind does what it does. But I do know that is a God-driven mind. And the story of the horse, the story of the gate, the story of the being hauled off, I think, and just watch me here because this is a confessional as much as anything, how important it is for me to work at being correct. Let's pretend the metaphor is you're all a bunch of horses out there, right? And I'm on a horse and this and that. And I can't be wrong. I can't create this word we talked about yesterday called entropy. I can't create chaos. I have to be correct. And I get a lot of things from a lot of people in Messenger, even people somehow get my phone numbers, they text me things, and everyone's mostly kind, but there are challenges to the scripture. There are challenges to what Jesus said. There's challenges to all of this, but I need you to understand why we're differently people. I will die on the hill that Christ is the only way to heaven. But I do think that the bigger we get with this and the more we talk about all this and the more all that goes on, that I am stirring up the stable. And I'm concerned that people get hurt or the turtle doesn't get prayed for, or the hands aren't being held at prayer, or whatever it is, or someone misconstrues the Bible, or worse yet, as the mouthpiece of God, right? I'm a modern day Apollos. I write about it in my third book, Your Will Be Done. I write the very fact that I'm a modern day Apollos, meaning that I'm really, really working hard to get it right. Apollos didn't get it right away. He had counsel to help him, and I have counsel, and all of you and people are just amazing. But I work at getting it right. I read scripture. I study scripture. And long story short is the scriptures I'm reading and studying aren't going to jive with everybody's interpretations of the way they look at things. But I need you to all to understand, don't haul me out. I need you to understand that I need to get back to that horse that's under the gate. I need to get back to that horse that needs the rest of that high tensile pulled out, because I'm not so concerned on the minor details on all these stuff right now. I'm concerned about you. I'm concerned about that horse that can't get out of the gate because maybe I stirred him up a little bit. I got to make sure that they understand, right? And it's the little things, right? God is not unjust so as to forget your work and the love which we have shown for his name in ministering to the saints, the teaching of the saints. That's us. That's us who are listening right now. Right. And the other side of the church we talked about is to find the lost, to gather the lost. So the teaching, the two pieces of a church I'm doing on this show, one is I'm training up the saints. I'm teaching on Hebrews 6:10. I'm stirring up the stable, right? And I'm helping the wounded. I'm trying to understand that. But also as importantly is we're collecting people that could be lost, like the man who let me pray for his turtle, like the man who held my hand at a prayer because he thought that's what we did. And so I just want to impose on you that today. I can't even begin to tell you how many comments I got on here right now. I cannot get to all you people right now. It's a spectacular thing to be involved in this. And I want you to understand that today's show has been phenomenal. And I'm going to break this down real quick here, and then tomorrow we'll dive into it a little bit. I know we just burned up an hour. But here's what I want to talk to you about on the success loop. Yesterday, we spent a lot of time on the 3 stages of being wired differently. And so I'm just going to lay these out, and then we're going to pick it up tomorrow. I'm going to review what we did yesterday. So here's what happens. Yesterday, we talked about the creation, the actualization, and the salvation. Those are the 3 stages of being wired differently, right? So we have creation, which is the mind. We talked about the mind being the part of the creation faith. God creates our body and our mind and the 1 quadrillion neurons. That's 15 zeros. So we can't denounce the fact that we're wired differently from creation. Science, no way around it. God did it. He put us here. And then you look at the science of the brain and all the things that go on it and all the neurons and all that. No one can argue that. The second phase of being wired differently is this idea of actualization. So now the mind was created. Now we need to learn how to use the mind to get us the things that we want. And that's why the mind gives us the conscious thought and the subconscious thought. And if we don't understand that, then the world puts things in our mind, and then our subconscious, which is the driver of getting anything you want in this world, goes and gets things that are put in our mind, not by choice, but by what the world has put there. And there's where a lot of people go astray. And then the last phase of being wired differently is understanding the salvation phase. Number 1 is creation, number 2 is actualization, and number 3 is salvation. Now, salvation is this part where we accept Christ in our heart. And once he's in our heart, soul, mind, and gives us strength, he goes in there. And then when the actualization part of our mind starts to work, he is the judge, the jury, he is the influencer. He is the one saying, you know, Todd, that's not a good idea. That doesn't fit my teachings. That's not a good thing for your neighbors. That's not one of these little things that I'm going to be not unjust and forget about. I see all what you do for a ministry, and that's not going to be doing anything for my ministry. So, you know, you see the whole devil on one side and the angel on the other side of your shoulder. Well, if you only go through creation phase number 1, stage number 1, and you get to actualization stage number 2, which you can get anything in this world you want if you understand it well enough on how to use your superconscious, subconscious. You only have possibly the devil on each shoulder, and you don't have anything to balance out your subconscious, your dark side of you, or the devious side of you. You don't have any blinky red lights. You have no guide rails to help this subconscious go get the things that are really good for the world, your family, your friends, and everybody in God's kingdom. So that's why we really need this third phase called salvation, to accept Christ into our heart so he can be in our thought process, in our heart process, in our soul process. And so that's what we taught almost an hour on yesterday. And so today I want you to notice, I'm just going to briefly talk to you about, if you see the top left-hand corner, this says 3 stages, 3 iterations. So the 3 stages are creation, actualization, salvation. The creation stage is about the mind being formed. The actualization stage is about the reps that we put in our subconscious, in our mind. And last but not least, the third stage of being wired differently is salvation, which is the action we take to make these things happen for the good. The action we take to make things happen for the good. Okay? You got that image? So what I'm going to do is kind of just take you through real quick, and we're going to end this today. Banners here. So I wanted to teach you, I'm going to toggle here real quick. So the creation is the mind, stage 1. And there are 3 places, 3 iterations of creation that I want you to understand that are your power. Now, if you see this here, you see the 3 iterations are know, believe, and pray. Know, believe, and pray. So in the creation stage, while the mind is working for us, these are the 3 iterations of the wire differently success loop. You can see the colors, how they wrap around. Know is a pinkish color. Believe is a purplish color. And pray is the black color. And so the first stage is know, believe, and pray. Know, believe, and pray. The second stage in the actualization stage is create, prepare, and say. And last but not least, action stage is execute, attack, and stay. So I'm going to just talk to you today, and we're going to close out about creation in the 3 iterations of the creation phase that I want you to be thinking about. So in the creation stage, this is the place where when we're working on the success loop, the first place we need to stop. First place we need to stop. And the first iteration of the creation or the mind stage is that we need to know what we want, right? So we have this big word creation, which is a stage of being wired differently, which involves the mind. Now in the success loop, the 3 iterations within this mind stage of becoming successful in our lives, the first thing we need to know is to know what we want. The most successful people in the world have one thing in common and one thing only. No, it's not God. You don't need God to be successful. I mean, this is where I lose all kinds of Christians. You just don't. I mean, he loved us that much that he gave us a brain that works just as good for a non-believer as it does a believer. It's just less guided. It's just less successful in the things that may further Christ. It may be less successful and may further goodness in certain things. There's no real rules in it. It's just that he loves us that much to say, hey, I'm giving you all an awesome brain. Go out there and kick ass and take names. But by the way, if you don't choose me, I'm still not going to take your gifts away, but you're not going to really see heaven on earth as I planned it for you. And you're not going to have everlasting life, and you're not going to be able to have the decision processes to be fulfilled and feel the joy that I want you to have here. Right? So the first thing we need to know in the success loop, the wired differently success loop, is to know what we want. And the same thing in that belief category, in that number 1 category, know. And in the mind, we have to know what we want. Most of us don't know what we want. And number 2, we have to truly, truly believe that this is what you want, and you have to believe that this is what you're destined to. You have to know what you want. You have to truly believe that this can happen. It will happen. It's gonna happen. And then last but not least, we need to pray. This is what the mind's doing for us. Right? Now, tomorrow I'm going to pull this together more. I really enjoyed today's class, but it was a class. We had a good time. But listen, it was really awesome. I've got a 10 o'clock. I got to jump off, but I really want to tell you guys how awesome it was today and how much we got across. And I want to thank one last time. I want to thank Chad Brewmeister for the 77 Pray app. I can't wait to put out the Wire Differently Study app, a Bible app. That we're going to be following along together, and Chad's doing a phenomenal job. I've got shirt orders coming in, you guys. The shirt orders, just so you know, these prices are stupid cheap right now. So all of you that are following along, that are helping us build this brand and this movement, these special prices out there are for you guys as we build this. They're going to go up some. We've got to make a little bit of money at it, but I really, really, really want you to support the store, share the store as we grow it. It's in its infancy right now. We'll have as many as 100 different merch opportunities, but the shirts that are out there, get them. Let us know the quality. There's several different manufacturers we can use. And so we want to know what's going on there, but this is all high quality and great stuff. So appreciate everything. And I can't wait to talk to you tomorrow about the success loop. I want to turn this off. Where is it? Where is this overlay? Oh, here it is right here. The banner. All right, guys, we had a great day today. Appreciate so many of you hung on today. Look at all these people out there. I'm going to check out your comments. I'll get back to you guys today. Thank you so much. Remember, if you wanted the audiobook of Your Will Be Done, throw it in there today. Chat or Chris is on. He's going to get to you, and he's going to go back and look at a couple of days ago. But it all looks good. Have a great day. Abby, we miss you. Chad Brewmeister, thank you. Have a great day. Everyone.